Escobar, a ruthless killer, escaped from his own luxury prison when authorities tried to transfer him to another jail. NBC's David Bloom is in Medellin.
July 22nd, 1992. A convoy of government vehicles is climbing a narrow mountain road above Envigado, Colombia. It's late at night. Inside the led vehicle sits Eduardo Mendoza, Assistant Justice Minister of Colombia. He's got a simple job. Tell Pablo Escobar he's being transferred to a different facility. Sign the paperwork. Leave. But the place they're driving toward, it's not what any government document would call a prison. It sits on a hilltop that Escobar picked himself. The guards were vetted and approved by Escobar's own people. The land beneath it had documented ties to drug traffickers. And on every side of that hilltop, for miles in every direction, Medellin cartel territory. Mendoza walks through the gate. He delivers the message. Escobar listens. Then he tells Mendoza he's not leaving, and neither is Mendoza. "You are my hostage," Escobar says. "You will leave here dead." By dawn, 400 army commandos had surrounded the building. Gunfire echoed across the hillside. At least 2 guards were killed. 5 cartel members were captured inside. And Pablo Escobar, the most wanted man on the planet, was gone. He didn't escape through a tunnel. President Gaviria confirmed there was no tunnel. He walked through a fence with 9 men into the fog. Every news organization on Earth wanted to know how he got out.
He will remain hidden now and will continue to run his vast cocaine empire in Colombia's outlying regions, where residents he has given money to over the years will protect him.
But the more important question, the one that took years to answer honestly, was how a democratic government handed the most dangerous criminal in the Western Hemisphere the keys to design his own prison. That answer doesn't start in 1992. It starts with a bomb. Chapter 1. The War That Bought the Deal. On November 27, 1989, Avianca Flight 203 exploded over the Andes Mountains. 107 people died. Escobar ordered the bombing to kill 1 passenger, a presidential candidate who survived because he missed the flight. That same year, a truck bomb outside the DAS intelligence headquarters in Bogotá killed 52 people and injured 1,000 more. These weren't random acts of terror. They were a negotiating strategy. Escobar had one demand running through every bombing, every assassination, every bribe: no extradition to the United States. He called his campaign Los Extraditables. Their slogan was printed on leaflets and mailed to government officials. "We prefer a grave in Colombia to a prison in the United States." By 1991, over 1,000 police officers had been killed in Medellin alone. Judges refused cases. Politicians refused to legislate. Witnesses refused to testify. The Colombian state wasn't losing a war on drugs. It was losing the basic ability to govern. So when President Cesar Gaviria opened a negotiated surrender channel, he wasn't being naive. He was calculating the least bad option he had. And Escobar, who'd been running this campaign for years with surgical precision, knew exactly what he wanted in return. In 1991, Colombia ratified a new constitution. Article 35 banned the extradition of Colombian nationals. That was the single clause Escobar had been bombing toward for 3 years. He surrendered 6 days after it passed. The timing was not a coincidence. Under Decree 3030, Escobar could negotiate the terms of his confinement in exchange for a partial confession. He confessed to 1 charge of drug trafficking. And in return, he got to approve the location, the construction, and the staff of the facility that would hold him. The Colombian government didn't build La Catedral. Pablo Escobar built La Catedral. The government just paid for it. And what they got for that investment was about to become the most embarrassing chapter in Colombian political history. Chapter 2. What they actually built. On June 19, 1991, Pablo Escobar walked through the gates of La Catedral. He was, on paper, a prisoner of the Colombian state. La Catedral sat on a hilltop above Envigado, the town where Escobar grew up. The Colombian military held a perimeter around it, facing outward. Their official role was to prevent escape. Their actual function, whether they understood it or not, was to give Escobar a protected border. Inside that border, the facility had a full-size soccer field, a bar, a jacuzzi, a waterfall feature, a nightclub. There were computers, telephone lines, fax machines, and secure radio transmitters. Escobar's guards weren't government employees vetted by the Justice Ministry. They were men he trusted. In the first 3 months of his confinement, Colombian police recorded more than 300 unauthorized visits to La Catedral. In 3 months, cartel lieutenants, business associates, lawyers with no filed paperwork, personal guests, all moving in and out of a maximum security facility at a rate of more than 3 visitors per day. Former Colombian Interior Minister Carlos Lemos didn't mince words when asked about it. He called La Catedral Escobar's operations headquarters. Not a prison, not a holding facility, a headquarters. From inside, Escobar coordinated shipments, communicated with cartel leadership, and kept managing the financial machinery of one of the largest drug enterprises in history. His estimated net worth during this period sat between $2 and $5 billion. The operation didn't pause when he surrendered. It relocated. The Colombian government knew about the visits. A police report documenting those 300 unauthorized entries was filed and acknowledged.
He had a war tax on the other traffickers in Colombia. He charged 50% of their cocaine loads.
Nothing changed. For 13 months, the arrangement held, until Escobar made a mistake that was too visible to ignore. He committed a murder inside a government prison, in front of witnesses. Chapter 3. The bodies in the prison. Fernando Galeano and Gerardo Moncada were not small players. Both men were senior figures inside the Medellin cartel. They'd built their own distribution networks, their own revenue streams, their own crews. In mid-1992, word reached Escobar that the 2 men had been skimming cartel profits. The amounts were significant enough that Escobar decided this required a personal conversation. He invited them to La Catedral. They came. According to testimony from John Jairo Velasquez, known as Popeye, one of Escobar's most trusted killers, both men were murdered inside the compound. Their bodies were dismembered and burned. Let that sit for a second. This wasn't a street execution carried out by some lieutenant. This was the cartel's chief executive conducting a disciplinary hearing inside a facility under Colombian government supervision. When news of the killings reached the Galeano and Moncada families, they didn't go to the cartel. They went to the Colombian government. They told officials exactly what had happened inside La Catedral. For the Gaviria administration, this created a problem that couldn't be managed quietly anymore. Allowing Escobar to live comfortably was a political embarrassment. Allowing him to murder rivals inside a state facility, that was something else entirely. On July 21st, 1992, the government made a decision. Escobar would be moved to a conventional military facility. They sent 2 men to deliver that message. And those 2 men had no idea what they were walking into. Chapter 4. The night it collapsed. Eduardo Mendoza arrived at La Catedral on the evening of July 21st, 1992. Alongside him was General Gustavo Pardo Ariza. Their task was administrative. Inform Escobar of the transfer, process the paperwork, hand over custody. Escobar let them in. Then he told them they weren't leaving. Mendoza later described the moment in detail. Escobar looked at both men and told them they were hostages. If the transfer proceeded, they'd leave in body bags. Outside the perimeter, the Colombian military had no clean options. Storming the facility risked killing the two officials inside. Waiting gave Escobar time to move. Through the night, negotiations went nowhere. Escobar reportedly called journalists from inside La Catedral, claiming he was in a tunnel and prepared to fight to the death. President Gaviria later confirmed there was no tunnel. At dawn on July 22nd, the government ran out of patience. 400 Army commandos hit the perimeter. Gunfire broke out across the compound. Mendoza later described the moment the shooting started. He dropped to the floor and crawled through a hallway under live fire until he reached safety. When the smoke cleared, 5 cartel members were in custody. At least 2 guards were dead. Escobar was not there. The Army commander, General Manuel Murillo, told reporters there were indications that some Army units had participated in the escape. Not blocked it, participated in it. Escobar hadn't needed a tunnel, a helicopter, or a firefight. He'd walked through a gap in a fence, with 9 men, into the Colombian hillside. The military perimeter that had spent 13 months facing outward had, in the end, faced the wrong direction one final time. He'd been gone for hours before anyone outside the compound knew. Chapter 5. What came after? The manhunt that followed lasted 16 months. During that time, a coalition of Escobar's enemies, cartel rivals, former associates of the Moncada and Galeano families, and others, formed a group called Los Pepes. The name stood for People Persecuted by Pablo Escobar. They didn't wait for the government. They started hunting Escobar themselves, tearing apart his network, killing his associates, burning his assets, all while the official search moved forward. On December 2nd, 1993, Colombian security forces tracked Escobar to a middle-class neighborhood in Medellin called Los Olivos. He was killed in a rooftop confrontation the day after his 44th birthday.
No one expects the death of Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar to put much of a dent in the world cocaine trade. But as Diana Gonzalez reports, it does put an end to one of the bloodiest criminal careers in history.
But the debate over La Catedral didn't end with him. 3 questions have never been fully resolved. First, how many people died because of orders Escobar gave from inside La Catedral during those 13 months? The answer isn't publicly known. What is confirmed is that the cartel didn't stop operating. Second, did Colombian army units actively help Escobar escape? Or did they simply fail to stop him? General Murillo's statement that there were indications of army participation was never followed by a public prosecution. And third, was the La Catedral deal the right call? The Gaviria government made it under extraordinary pressure. The bombings had killed hundreds of civilians. The judiciary had collapsed under threats. Extradition had been turned into a terror campaign. Every option on the table was bad. But what La Catedral shows us goes beyond Colombia and beyond Escobar. When a state negotiates with someone who has more capacity for violence than the state itself, the agreement will always reflect that imbalance. Gaviria didn't hand Escobar a luxury prison because he was corrupt or careless. He handed it over because Escobar had spent 3 years making the alternative cost more than the country could pay. That's not a Colombian problem. That's a power problem. If you want to see the next shadow organization we're exposing, click and subscribe on the screen right now.